Malik, my name is Roy,
Hi, Roy.
and with the grace of a power greater than myself and these 12 steps that I try to put into my life on a daily basis, I have not had a drink today. To begin with, we had some sad news this morning that one of our really good friends, Sunil K, passed away last night. So we can just have a moment of silence. He was very helpful to me when I was a newcomer. He had over 38 years of sobriety. He encouraged us to read the big book and study it and share on that. And he was one of the few old timers that really pushed us to do this. So I think we had distributed some worksheets in the afternoon. I think Girish and I had both sent them out. And I hope that you'll be able to follow on as we talk today. I hope people use the sheets that we gave yesterday to actually do some work on a resentment fourth step. And please share that with other people, especially your sponsor. If they've never seen it, you can show them how to do it. 1 second. Fair enough. So we are come up to the second part of the fourth step, and which is fears. So just to quickly summarize, before we go any further into the thing, step one is what? We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. And we know from page 30 we have conceded, which means to admit, to acknowledge, to give up, to say I'm done, to our innermost selves, to us ourselves, that we are alcoholics. That's on page 30. And who is an alcoholic? And an alcoholic is a person whose life's unmanageability, from page 52, makes him restless, irritable and discontent, from page XXVIII, fourth page of the doctor's opinion. This RID causes a mental state, page 35, which is called an obsession, on page 23. And this obsession makes him drink, doctor's opinion, page 5, XXIX. And then sets off a physical craving, XXVIII, doctor's opinion, which is called an allergy. So that is step one, that we admitted to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. And this is what an alcoholic is. Someone whose life is unmanageable, the unmanageability makes him drink. Once he drinks, he can't stop. So step two, it says it came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So we have said on page 47 that we do believe, page 53, God is everything or He is nothing, or even willing to believe, page 51, Christopher Columbus, the Wright brothers. What is this willingness to believe? It is a suspicion, maybe, shayad, perhaps, agar, if this suspicion leads to decisions. If they can do it, let me try. The decision leads to actions. Actions lead to results. And from the results, we get belief. If it works, that's great. If not, we can go back and change the actions. That's what the Wright brothers did. So we do believe, or are willing to believe, that there is a power greater than ourselves. And on page 45, we have already admitted powerless in step 1. And page 45, it says that this power is going to restore us to sane thinking. And what is this power? Our own concept. From page 46 and page 47. And this power will solve the drink problem, page 45. And restore us to sanity from insanity. The insanity of page 23, obsession. Page 24, drink like other people. Page 30, control and enjoy. And it will restore us to sound thinking. That's the second step. Believe, or we are willing to believe. Then we came to step 3. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. So we have made a decision. What is that? A choice. To turn our will. That is, to move our thinking in a different direction. And our life, which is our actions based on our will, our thinking. And this is based on self, our instincts for survival, social, sexual gratification or fulfillment. And over to the care of God of our own understanding, our own concept, group of drunks, good orderly direction, a formal God. Page 46, 47. Because we have been trying to fulfill and live on selfish desires, page 62. Selfish, self-centered, that is the root of our troubles. We have been like the actor on page 60, 61, wanting everyone to do what he wants and he winds up hurting people. Page 62, steps on the toes of others. And then he fails at life. Extreme example of self-will run riot, page 62. So we pray on page 63, page 215 and 251, for today. Take my will, my thinking, my actions, do what you want with it, and take away my difficulties and let me help others. And then we take the action associated with that, which is on page 420. Today I do what must be done and leave the results up to God. However it turns out, that is God's will for me. That brought us up to step 4. Now in step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. What is moral? Moral just means truthful. We don't have to make up stuff. Just truth, just the truth. And we began with the number one offender of alcoholics, which is resentments. Resentment to refeel, to remember hurts done to us from the past. What do? We put them on paper. Very simple. Whom are we angry with? Why are we angry? How were we affected? And we saw those 7 areas. Self-esteem, money, ambitions, personal relations, sex relations, pride, fear. Then we took the spiritual treatment for all these resentments. They said these resentments are going to kill us. We can't wish them away any more than alcohol is what the big book said on page 66. So we had to do something different. We're entirely ready to look at it from a new angle. And the new angle presented to us by AA was, we pray for them. These are sick people. God save me from being angry. Let me cheerfully, treat them with kindness, patience, tolerance and love. Let me pray to God maybe from page 552 to give them whatever we want for ourselves. Good health, long life, sobriety, serenity, peace of mind, happy families, healthy children, comfortable bank balances, working cars, good life partners. See, I'm getting better. After we have done this praying, now we look at the next part of resentments. We look at what did we do to them. Those are the instructions on page 67. Putting out of our minds the wrongs other people had done, we look for our own mistakes. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking and afraid? Where were we to blame? From that we got a list of defects of character, which we are now going to approach in step 6 and 7. And we also got the list of amends, which we will approach in step 8 and 9. So it's a very crucial step, the resentment part of step 4. And now we are going to get to, today's topic, which is fear. So if you have your big book with you, let's go to page 68. 67. So, having done our 4th step, and we finished with this 4th step, what is the first thing we notice? And it says over here, the last paragraph on page 67. It says, notice the word fear is bracketed alongside the difficulties with Mr. Brown, Mrs. Jones, the employer and the wife. So in the example which was given to us in the big book, okay, with Mr. Jones, Mrs. and all these people, in some of these resentments, the word fear was there in brackets because the anger generated fear. So they said, notice the word fear which is there, okay? And this short word touches almost every aspect of our lives. Because of the fear, very often my survival instinct is hurt or threatened. Because of the fear, my social instinct is hurt or threatened. My sex instinct is hurt and threatened. And they said it is an evil and corroding thread which touches almost every aspect of our lives. What does this fear do is the question we ask. And on the same page, on the very next line, it's very subtly slid in, it says, it sets in motion, the fear, sets in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt we didn't deserve. But did we not ourselves set the ball rolling? So, I'll give you a couple of examples. So back in the day, I would be out there drinking with the boys and then speeding to get home before the girlfriend because I'm afraid she's going to give me a lecture. If she gets home before me, then she'll know. She'll smell me when I come in. Okay, so that fear is there. I'm going to get a lecture, I'll be late. So I'm speeding. So the fear sets in motion, trains of circumstances. What happens? What are the circumstances? I get stopped by the cops. And you know how the cops are. Now they won't just stop you, give you a ticket. Sir, you are speeding. We don't like that. Here's your ticket, go away. No. Full history, geography, father's name, spelling, where do you live, whose car is this, why are the papers, where are you going, why am I smelling alcohol, that full panchnama nikal ke. After about 45 minutes, finally, I am let go of. And obviously, I reach home late and we have a huge argument. Okay? This is the misfortune I felt I didn't deserve. I am a working man. I am entitled to have a few drinks with my buddies. Okay, she's going to yell, so I am going to do the right thing. Because of the fear, I'm trying to rush home so I can get home before her. And because of the fear I rushed, I got caught by the cops. Misfortune. I was given tickets. I felt I didn't deserve it. However, did we not set the ball ourselves rolling? Had I not been drinking, I wouldn't have been afraid. I wouldn't have needed to speed. I wouldn't have got a ticket and I wouldn't have got the lecture. So did I not myself set the ball rolling? I could have handled things differently. I could have said, honey, I'm going out with the boys. I'll have a couple of drinks and then come home. I could have gone home and then had a couple of drinks. It's not that she didn't know I drank. I could have not drunk that day, highly unlikely. But that's what they said. The fear sets in motion trains of circumstances which we felt we didn't deserve. Now in that particular incident, which of my instincts was being hurt because of this fear? Not my survival instinct, because my girlfriend was not paying my paycheck. So my survival instinct was not threatened unless she was a good fiery Anglo-Indian, unless she was going to hit me on the head with a saucepan or something, then possibly. But my social instinct. What will my friends think? He's henpecked, he does what his girlfriend tells him to do. Tu mard hai kya? You're a man or you're hiding behind this? All this famous bloody lines you get in the bar. Sex instinct. If I keep this up, chances of sex that night are slim to none. So, keeping this in mind, that I want to keep my social relations, my sex relations okay, fear drove me to speed. Brought about, those are the circumstances, brought about misfortune, the cops and the ticket. I felt I didn't deserve it. But did I not start it myself? Wow. So I'm noticing fear in a lot of our resentments. And the big book tells me that the fear dictates to actions which cause problems that I have only started. It's a very honest inventory guy. It's very difficult to blame other people if you're willing to get over your alcoholism, the solution is here. So what do I have to do? Okay, so if this is what fear is doing to me, then I want to know what I have to do. And so now we go to page 68 of the big book. And in the second paragraph, I keep putting this bookmark on the wrong page, sorry. And on the second paragraph, it gives us some instructions. We reviewed our fears thoroughly. Look at them again. Review. The first time we were doing our resentments, we viewed them, we wrote them down. Now we are reviewing them. We put them on paper. So there's going to be writing taking place. even though we had no resentment in connection with it. So there may be a lot of people that I resent and I'm afraid of, but there will be many other things that that I don't resent, but I am definitely afraid of. Okay? I'm afraid of old age. I'm afraid of poverty. I'm afraid of illness. I'm afraid of dying alone, loneliness. They're not on my resentment list, but they are there. So they say we put them on paper, even if there's no resentment. So whatever resentment we've checked off here, those names should go. And then we ask ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the fear problem, nor any others. Okay? So, when it made us cocky, it was worse. So, again, the big book, the nice paragraph of instructions, but there are no pictures, there's no chart. So like I shared yesterday, I think Bill W. thought that we were smart enough to look at the instructions and follow directions. So, direction number 1, we reviewed our fears thoroughly. We set them on paper even though we had no resentment in connection with them. So if I looked at my chart, okay, I saw when I was doing my resentments, there was fear of my dad, the priest who abused me, new ones, COVID, I'm afraid of COVID, I'm afraid of the police, and an old one from 96, the thieves in Amsterdam who robbed my suitcase. So in the first column, we reviewed our fears, we put them on paper. I'm afraid of my dad, the police, COVID, old age, income tax, whatever. Being broke, being alone, whatever it is. Next, we asked ourselves why we had them. That's very simple. We asked ourselves why we had them. So I wrote down with my dad, my fear was he will find out about my lying, my cheating, my stealing, and he will punish me. He'll give me solid. With the priest who assaulted me, he'll continue to assault me. He'll use his position to affect my education. I won't promote you, this and that. When it came to COVID, I'm in the borderline age group here. I'm almost 59. I may get sick. I may never see my son again. He's in the US. That's why I have the fear of COVID. I'm afraid of the police. It's an old one. Why? They will arrest me for drinking and driving. Then the thieves of Amsterdam left me with $50, my passport, my ticket. I'll never get my stuff back. I won't be able to survive in the USA. Number 1, what are my fears? Column number 2, why do I have them? Then they wrote another 2 or 3 lines. They said, wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it did not go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it did not solve the fear problem or any other. In fact, when it made us cocky, the situation got worse. So let me give you that same example of the police that I was afraid of, not was that time. So hold on a second. I don't know what I did with this here. There we are. I thought I was sorry. Old age. Okay. So you take that fear of the police. Okay. So I am driving along. I've had 2-3 drinks, and suddenly I see a checkpoint ahead. I see a nakabandi. Okay. So self-reliance. What's the first thing I do after bloody 3-4 drinks? I have to depend on myself. They are bloody sakarams here. What they will know. So what do? I roll down the window. I light a cigarette. I start one fake conversation with some fake nurse. अरे सिस्टर तो पेशेंट आला का 3 नंबर मध्ये घाल तो डॉक्टरला सांग 60 cc सॅलाइन चढा अरे I'm having some imaginary conversation with some imaginary nurse in an imaginary hospital about some imaginary patient. Being the son of 2 medical people, it's easy to pick up some of this lingo and drop the right words with the right accent and stuff like that. Girish, my power might go. In that case, the power is gone. So, the cop hears all this. And Are Sahibla Jaunde, let him go through. So self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it did not go far enough. Is it going to get me through all the checkpoints all the way home? Now, because I got through that first checkpoint, relying on myself, Roy the Great got himself through the checkpoint on Bol Bacha. Self-confidence. Arey, he's a very Pandu, ya, usko kya malum? So I have 2-3 nice swigs from the quarter in my car. By the time I come to the next Nakabandi, I'm not even pretending that I'm on the phone with some fake nurse and all that. I'm just saying, Arey, me doctor aaya down there now. Bloody slurring, not driving straight, pick me up, take me straight to the cop station. Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but didn't go far enough. Usually failed. Self-confidence didn't fully solve the fear problem. When it made us cocky, it was worse. Because if self-reliance worked, the fear, I would not have a fear of the cops when I approached till today, I'm 30 years sober. Every time in Goa, I pick up the bike, I'm sitting on the bike, all the papers, everything I order is not even rented, it's William's bike. And yet every time I see a cop or something, that little heartbeat go, I'm not breaking the law. My license is in order, the bike is in order, the papers in order, license, registration, whatever that thing is for the smoke and all that. Everything is in order. But that little fear goes through me. Okay? So, the first column was we reviewed our fears. The second column was we asked ourselves why we had them. Let me give you a different example. You remember when we were kids and our parents used to say, you better come home before it's dark, otherwise that Buddha Kaka is going to get you. Now if you were someone like me, you played till the last possible moment. Okay? And then as soon as the street lights came on, you ran like the top of your speed to home, hoping the Buddha Kaka wouldn't get you. And you are running, you are taking a hostage, one friend with you. Chalo, let's run, shouting this, that. Self-reliance. Get home, cool, I made it. Now if self-reliance actually worked, why would I be afraid of the dark the next day when the sun went down? The next day I was like a big hero. Arey yaar, yesterday I went home by myself. Total self-confidence. Why is the fear still there? So self-reliance has failed. Self-confidence makes it worse. It makes me do really stupid things because I think I'll get away with it. So then the next instruction in the big book is, there should be some better way. Is there a better way? Yes, it says on the same page 68 in the next paragraph. In the same paragraph it says, just to the extent, okay, that we do as we think He would have us and humbly rely upon Him, does He enable us to match calamity with serenity. See, that's what they are saying in the next paragraph. Perhaps there is a better way. We think so. For we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting and relying upon God. Why? Because on page 63, I made a decision to turn my will and life over. God, you're the boss, you're the director, I'm the actor, you're the boss, I'm the worker. So I'm trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God, He can do anything. Rather than our finite selves, I can only do a certain amount. We're here in the world to play the role He assigned. Step 3, prayer. Relieve me of the bondage of self. Take my will and my life and do what you want. I am the actor. What role is He giving me? I have to play that. And here is the freedom. Just to the extent that we do as we think He would have us, does He enable us to match calamity with serenity. So 1st of May 1996, when the thieves stole my briefcase in Amsterdam, with all the money, with all my original documents and everything, I said the prayer. I said, God, what do you want me to do? And the message came, go make a police complaint. And after that, go and demonstrate to another alcoholic that even when the worst happens, you don't have to drink, you can stay sober. Match calamity with, it was a calamity. I'm about to start a new life in a new country. All I had was my passport, my ticket, and $50. I was serene. I said the prayer, made the police complaint, went to an AA meeting. I was serene. And then they followed up in the next paragraph. They said, we never apologize to anyone for depending upon our Creator. You know, how come you're so calm? The will of God, man. If God did not want me to arrive in the USA with a whole thappi of cash in my pocket, He must be having a reason. I don't know what it is now. We can laugh at those who think spirituality is the way of weakness. Paradoxically, it is the way of strength. The verdict of the ages, you read history books, you read religious books, you hear stories of the old people, you know, our parents, our grandparents, you hear the stories they tell. And what do they tell? Faith means courage. It is when things are tough, they have faith and they keep going. Christopher Columbus went the wrong way, did not fall off the edge of the earth, came back. Decision, belief, decision, action, results. He got knowledge. The second time he went on faith. He said, I know I will not fall off the edge of the earth. I may not find India. I may be attacked by pirates. My ship might hit some rocks, but I will not fall off the edge of the earth. That is faith. And because of my constant practice of the 12-step program, when I did get robbed in Amsterdam, I had the faith that things are going to work out. And that is courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is taking action in the presence of fear. And even though I was afraid, I went and I did it. Made the complaint. Had $50 left. Utne mein se sala spent $1 to take the tram and go to tram number 3 to the last stop. So men of faith, they have courage. They trust their God. All men of faith have courage. They never apologize for God. There's 2 times in one paragraph saying we don't apologize. Yeah, God is doing for me what I cannot do for myself. Page 45. Instead, we let Him demonstrate through us what He can do. Roy, you lost your job. What are you going to do? I will make a resume, apply for jobs, and I'll see what God has in store for me. And God has demonstrated through me what He can do. He has done crazy things through me, man. Even when I went for my US visa in 1990, I had to go and make amends. I was 28 years old. 28, see the age group. I was single. I had no dependents. I owned no property. I had some miserable bank account, less than 20,000 bucks in it. I had no cars or anything. I had no education. I had no formal employment. Everything in my package said, this guy is a risk for staying back in the USA. Do not give him a visa. Went to the consulate. Went there, came for the interview. So the lady asked me, she said, you've been to the States a few times already in the 70s and 80s. What is the purpose of this trip? So I said, look, I'm in a 12-step program. I've got to make some amends to people I've hurt. And I'm seeing family and doing sightseeing at the same time. 1 year, multiple entry visa. Unbelievable. We let Him demonstrate through us what He can do. 1993, decided to go to the US, become a counselor. No money, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. Continued working here, continued applying to every university asking for scholarships. Out of the blue, someone calls me from Sharjah, offers me a job. I go there. Less than a year later, one of the clients offers me a job in the US to run his company over there. Let Him demonstrate what He can do. I go over there, get robbed on the way, didn't die. Managed. Wasn't easy. 6 months later, the guy calls me and says, sorry, I've run out of money, you do whatever you want. Now what? Go for a meeting, a West Indian guy there says an Indian fellow has started an outpatient clinic. For you Punjabis, he said, for Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi taxi drivers who didn't speak English and had a drinking problem. He said, we are looking for someone like you. 1 year later, I was the director of that program. We let him demonstrate through us what he can do. Few years later, I went for a job. It was a supervisor's, a clinical director's job. I lied on my resume. I said that I got a master's degree in whatever the bloody hell it was. I lied. They went for the interview. The guy asked me, so you got a master's from so-and-so university and all? I said, yeah. So he said, what is meant by, and he asked me some question. I don't know what he's talking about. So he said, I checked, such a university doesn't even exist. I felt really bad. I blew it. I said, I'm really sorry, I apologize. I said, I was just feeling low self-esteem. Fear. It made me lie. I can understand if I don't get the job. He gave me the job. 3 months later, I was shift supervisor. 9 months later, I was the clinical director of that place. So fear makes us do all kinds of crazy things, but look what the promise is. We let Him demonstrate through us what He can do. And here comes the prayer for the fear. We ask God to remove our fear and direct our attention to what He would have us be. So in the previous paragraph, I said, we do what we think God wants us to do, and He will demonstrate. And what do you want me to be? So I went back to my fear inventory. Number 1, my dad. He'll find out about my lying and cheating and stealing and will punish me. God, what should I do and what should I be? And the answer I got from God was, be an honest and respectful son. Stop lying and cheating. Go get a job. Save your pocket money. And go make amends. Of course, my dad was dead, so I had to make amends in a different way. I prayed. That's the answer I got. The priest who assaulted me. My fear was he'll continue to assault and manipulate my education. Prayed, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to be? The answer I got was, be courageous. Seek serenity through prayer. And go and seek help, psychological and legal. That's the answer I got. What do you want me to be? What do you want me to do? Third thing, COVID. I'm afraid. I'm in the borderline age gap. If I get it and I die, will I ever see my son again? God, what should I be? What should I do? God said, you idiot. What you should do is follow all the directions that the doctors have said. Wear the face mask, wash your hands, use sanitizer, keep the 6-foot distance. Don't go out in crowds. If anybody comes to your house, make them stand outside, throw 1 bottle of sanitizer at them, make them sanitize their hands. Follow directions, boss. That's what I need to do. Take all the medical precautions as advised. If it is the will of God, I'm going to get the COVID, whether I take precautions or not. That's not in my hands. But God has abundantly provided these things. That's the answer I got in the 4th step, fear prayer. Then my next one was, I'm afraid of the police. Why? Because they are going to arrest me for drinking, driving, and basically being a jackass. God, what do you want me to be? God, please remove this fear and direct my attention. What do you want me to be? What do you want me to do? God says, I want you to be sober. And what I want you to do is follow the law. Stop breaking the law. Be an honest, law-abiding citizen. Simple answers, man. The thieves at Amsterdam. Fear. I'll never get my stuff back. I won't be able to survive in the US. What was going to happen? The answer I got from God. What do you want me to do? Go make a police complaint. Trust God. Update my resume. Look for jobs. Ask for help and go and help others. This was my fear inventory. And then finally, if I do this fear inventory, what is the result if I say this prayer? God, please remove the fear and direct my attention to what you would have me be and do. It says, at once, we commenced to outgrow fear. So, I know it's a shorter session today, but that really is the fear session for today. We've already sent you some sheets which had blank forms, so you can use your sheets to your own fear inventory. And other than the people on my resentment list, what kind of other fears do people have? Alcohol. People are afraid of alcohol. People are afraid of relapse. People are afraid of. When I went for I told him I got no fears. The sponsor said, yeah. What about cockroaches? Cockroaches I don't mind. Flying cockroaches I don't like. I won't even say I'm afraid. I don't like. Arey, darpok sala, if one comes flying now, I'll go running like a baby, looking for the Baygon or whatever that bloody spray is. Animals, insects, afraid of authority, cops, customs officers, government officials. I'm afraid of abandonment. My girlfriend will dump me. I'm afraid of being alone. Nobody will ever be with me. My son will not take my phone calls. I'm afraid of being caught. I'm afraid of change. Big one. When there's unknown fears, I'm just afraid only. Why? I don't know. Okay, write down there, I don't know. And ask God, what do you want me to be? What do you want me to do? Now, a lot of people do the fear inventory, they write it out, they say the fear prayer, and that takes care of most of their fears. A lot of people do have clinical anxiety and they have clinical depression. If they are already under the treatment of a psychiatrist, please update your psychiatrist. Tell him, doc, you're giving me these medications. I'm also going to AA. I'm also trying this spiritual approach. I'm just letting you know in case you want to adjust the medication. And in case you do all these fear inventories and you're still experiencing anxiety, might be a good idea to go and have a checkout. Page 133. God has abundantly blessed this world with many fine psychiatrists, psychologists, practitioners of various kinds. So we've come to the end of our fear inventory. Tomorrow we'll be doing the sex inventory. Thursday we'll do harms. And I'll probably try and do step 5 also on Thursday. And then on Friday we can do 6, 7 and 8. And then next week, Monday, we will do 9, step 9. Tuesday we can do 10 and 11. Wednesday we can do 12. And then Thursday we'll wrap up. So I just want to thank everybody who's been coming and taking part in this workshop. And that's what it is. It's a workshop. So I'm sharing my experience of what I learned in the big book and how I've practiced in the past and I'm practicing it now. And I'm sharing whatever I'm not rewriting the big book. I just taken the same instructions and drawn some lines. That's all I'm doing. If it helps you, please use it. If it doesn't help you, don't use it. There's no compulsion. So that's the end of my share for today. I want to thank Girish and Anish, not only for setting up this whole thing, but the amazing work they are doing in the background. They are preparing the PDFs, they do the audio, the recordings, they send things out. It's amazing. I really want to thank the team, and I want to thank all of you guys for listening so patiently. And with that, Girish, are we doing question answers first or going straight to prayer first and then question answers?
I fear my sponsor. What should I do?
If my experience has been that the relationship with the sponsor should be comfortable. And if you're afraid of your sponsor, write it down and see what happens. I'm afraid of my sponsor. Column number 2, why? Why are you afraid of him? Write that out. And then column number 3, you ask God. Ask God, not ask Roy. We ask God, what should we be? What should we do? You will get an answer. Write it down. Maybe you'll have to change your sponsor. Maybe you'll have to tell your sponsor, I'm afraid of. I have no idea. You'll have to pray and see. That's what this is exactly, sir or madam, what this 4th step inventory is about. We reviewed our fears. We asked ourselves why we had them. Why am I afraid of my sponsor? Oh, because I'm supposed to be writing my 4th step every day and I'm not doing that. Oh, because my sponsor says it would be nice if I go for a meeting every other day. I heard every other week. This is my experience.
So the person has said some fears are good, and he wants your comments on them. Or no, the fact that some fears are good.
Good for him here. If some fears are good, that's good. Some fears are good. I want to catch a flight on time. I'm afraid that with my character defect of laziness, I'll miss the flight. So it's a healthy fear. I make sure I get ready earlier. I don't know how to comment for that yet because this is not philosophy. This is a very simple, clear-cut directions, precise, exact, specific, clear-cut directions for how to recover from alcoholism. And what they have said is, if you have a fear, write it down. Ask yourself why you have it, and then pray to God. We ask God to remove our fear and direct our attention to what He would have us be, what He would have us do. I think it's a nice question, but maybe it's for some. I'm not a philosophy major. Yeah, I'm just an alcoholic trying to stay sober. So I don't know what to say to you. Sorry.
So there was another person who asked the same question, and he
Same
gave the
answer.
example as fear of God. So the next question is how to overcome the fear of a relapse.
Dear God, please remove this fear of relapse and direct my attention to what you would have me be and what you would have me do. Now, if your God is similar to most of the people's God in Alcoholics Anonymous, your God will probably tell you the following. Sale, 12 steps jaldi karna. Number 2, go and share the 12 steps with other people and help them recover. Once you start doing, why would you fear relapse if you're taking the medicine? I don't know what your God will tell you. But what it said on page 58, rarely have we seen a person fail, which means go back to drinking, who has thoroughly followed our path. So if I am doing what the book is asking me to do, I'm home free.
Next question is I have a stammering problem. Is that a fear? Can I use the prayer for it?
You can use the prayer for anything that you're afraid of. But if you're talking about an actual physical condition, a speech disfluency, I suggest that if you're not already seeing a speech therapist or a speech pathologist, page 133, God has abundantly blessed this world with many fine doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists. Go and see a specialist.
What about
Now your speech disfluency, the stuttering or the stammering, it may definitely come from some fears. And I'm sure that in doing your 4th step, a lot of this stuff will be resolved. I did say that at the start. A lot of our stuff gets resolved through doing the steps. It's an amazing healing instrument. But there's some stuff that does need professionals and not amateurs like AA.
What about fear of material security? Fear, resentment, and anger keep on coming. People have grabbed my property. I prayed a lot and thinking of taking legal action. Please suggest.
Very good thought. Followed up with action.
That's the questions that I have. Anish has his hand up. Over to you, Anish.
Thanks, Girish. So the next question that I have is, I'm unable to articulate why I have the fear. It's just a unknown thing.
Yeah.
What can help me articulate it?
I don't know. But it would be, I have a fear. What is it? I have a fear of, I don't know what.
Yeah, it's
okay. I have unknown fears. I don't know why I have unknown fears. Okay?
Yeah.
I just wake up with a sense of dread. Like Asterix, the sky is going to fall on my head. Okay? I wake up with a sense of dread. I wake up full of fear. I don't know why I have this fear. I'm living in a lovely town which is virus free. I've got a nice bungalow. I've got staff. Why am I feeling like this? I don't know. God, page 68, God, please remove this fear and direct my attention to what you would have me be and do. So, if you believe in this 12-step program, if you're willing to believe it, try it. If God is not powerful enough for you, then try human power. Although we know there is no human power. But then instead of asking God, you can definitely ask your sponsor, what should I do? And sponsors have been known to give all kinds of amazing advices that I've heard over the years. I've had people say, I have low self-esteem, what should I do? And I've heard this so often. Do estimable things. Wow, damn good. What is estimable things? What does that mean? Do things that make you feel good. Now, because I went to school and studied these things, we were taught people what needs to be done to repair self-esteem is not to do estimable things, but to do difficult things. And when you do something that's difficult and you succeed in doing that, that's what builds up your self-esteem. Yeah, it's very estimable giving money to the poor and putting charity in the box. Acha hai. Doesn't build up self-esteem. That's my experience.
Thanks for that, Roy. The next question is, how will I know what God wants me to be like and what He wants me to do?
By praying and then taking the action on page 420. So my bag got stolen in Amsterdam. I was full of fear. I sat down at the airport and I prayed, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to be? I was not getting any answer. I was just saying, God, what to do, what to be. Suddenly I saw one cop passing by and I thought, I'll go make a police complaint. I went and made a police complaint. As soon as I got the formal complaint in my hand, I went and I phoned up Atul and Anupam. And then they were able to put a stop on the traveler's checks. So at least $2,000 which was in checks I got. So I got the answer of what to do. The big book says you pray. We ask God to remove it and the answers will come. And then on page 420, I do whatever's in front of me that must be done. Leave the results up to God. So this has been my experience with fear.
So there is a question which is not related to today's session in general. Sure. The question is that a friend has been prescribed sleep and depression kind of pills, benzos or whatever, and wants to just know that is that an adequate solution to not having alcohol?
We have no monopoly on recovery. We merely have a way that works with us. There are many people on this planet who have problems in addition to alcoholism. They are called comorbidities. You may have clinical depression, you may have bipolar disorder, you may have anxiety, you may have all kinds of other legitimate psychiatric medication which requires to be seen by a person with PhD behind his name, not AA behind his name. Requires to be seen by someone who has MD behind his name. Okay? So, please go and see these people. I can say, taking off my AA hat and putting on my counselor hat, I can tell you that in the United States, whether it is an outpatient rehab or whether it's an inpatient rehab, every new patient that comes to us, the first interview is with an alcohol counselor. It could be with me or one of my staff, whoever. We do the intake. We ask certain psychiatric and psychological questions. The next appointment when he comes back has to, there's no choice in this matter, has to be with the medical director of the facility. If the medical director says, this guy needs to take X amount of tablets per week for his condition, signed, sealed and delivered. Roy, you can do whatever you want in your treatment, 12 steps, 500 steps, no steps, stand in your head, go for meetings, go for melas, wo kuch bhi karne ka karo, but I as a doctor said he has to have these steps. So, I would suggest to you that you talk to your doctor, let your doctor know that you are going to AA, give him a copy of the big book, let him read Dr. Silkworth's opinion. There's other literature about, the correlation between medication and alcoholism recovery. Educate your doctor. Okay? Let him talk to a couple of doctors in India who are familiar with addiction. And maybe your doctor will be able to either keep you on whatever medication you are on, or to change it, or to increase it or lower it. I have no idea. But I think it's a very good idea to talk to him and let him know. Or her know.
Thanks. Next question is that our friend feels that he's been unable to build a good image for himself with his superiors at his workplace and is struggling professionally. And this is causing him fear as well as probably low self-esteem. What do you suggest?
So I'm afraid I'm not being respected by my superiors. The reason is, I hope these people have written down all these things in the paper and they're not just ad-libbing. So I'm afraid of this because they don't respect me, because of, so all I can do is share my experience. There was a time when I was afraid that I was not being taken seriously by my superiors or my peers. Why did I have the fear? Because I didn't have the educational qualifications. I was 6 years sober in AA. I knew the big book front and back. I didn't know how to do an assessment. I didn't know how to do a psych eval. I didn't know how to write a treatment plan. So I prayed God what to do. God said, Saleh, school ko jao, get educated. There were no schools in India. So I went to school. I got qualified. I got certified. And then I was respected. Then I worked hard. I'm reasonably good at the job I do. So it's all about action and it's about prayer. I can share my experience. I have no idea what your answer is going to be. That's why the big book, it says, we ask God, not we ask Roy. You can ask me questions, but...
So, Roy, there are two more questions. One question has come from a person who's an Al-Anon.
Yeah.
The person enjoys or really loves their drink once in a while, and they have fear that they might turn alcoholic.
Don't drink, you can't turn alcoholic. My family has a history of high cholesterol and heart disease. If I go to McDonald's every day and I eat a double cheeseburger with, French fries and a milkshake every day for lunch and dinner, I'm going to get it. But I do like a burger. I like a steak. I like my ribs. So I make sure I take my medication every day. And once a month when I'm in the States, I'll go out and have a steak. Once a month I'll have a burger. Once a month I'll have, not all three, any one of the three. Burger or steak or ribs. Because I'm not a whatever holic that is with that. So if you like your drink and you enjoy it, if you are able to, Anish will give you the exact reference. But the guideline for social drinking, as Anish found out, is this. Never more than 230 mLs in one sitting. Not one double, 230 mLs in one sitting, and never more than 2 times a week. So you can't have 4 chotas in 1 week. You can't have 3 on one day and 1 on the other. You can't have 1 double today, 1 single tomorrow, 1 single day after. Never more than 2 in one sitting, never more than twice a week. But if you're afraid, then don't drink, and that will solve that problem.
Fair enough. The next question, I don't know how to put it accurately, and which earlier question is connected to, which just says that some doctors not aware of AA, what do I do then, etc. So I'm not sure.
India has a pamphlet which is written 3 talks to medical societies. I don't know how much it costs, maybe 10 rupees or 20 rupees or something. Buy it, send it to your doctor, give it to him.
I think it's downloadable from aa.org as well.
There you are. Anish has the answer for you. Okay, there's a question from somebody about Did you get all your stolen stuff back on from Amsterdam and all the travel checks? You get the remaining
Questions that have come about nightmares. People are feeling fearful after nightmares. And one person saying that he repeatedly gets nightmares of relapsing. And will these ever stop?
No idea. I have no idea. I would only ask all the people who ask these questions, have you done all the 12 steps as outlined in the big book? If you haven't done that, try that. No, try the 12 steps as outlined in the big book. And then see if your nightmares are still there. If after doing the 12 steps, all these things are still there, it's probably psychiatric. You probably need to see a doctor. But will they stop, not stop? I have absolutely no idea. I'm not an expert on nightmares. Not an expert on anything, actually, except how to mess up my life.